Imagine a treasure so vast, so extraordinary, that it could make the richest people on earth seem poor, hidden deep within the dense jungles and rugged mountains of the Philippines. Its very existence has sparked decades of fascination, obsession, and daring adventure. This is the story of Yamashita's gold, a legendary fortune allegedly looted by Japan during World War II, rumored to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars, with some estimates reaching up to an astonishing 1 trillion in today's currency. The tale begins in the chaos of wartime Southeast Asia. As Japanese forces swept through the region, they did not just conquer cities and nations, they plundered them. Banks, temples, museums, and private collections were emptied with ruthless efficiency. Gold, jewels, rare artifacts, and priceless cultural treasures were seized and moved with military precision. The operation was so secretive and methodical that it became known as the Golden Lily, a codename for one of history's most audacious treasure hunts, carried out in the shadows of global conflict. What makes this legend so captivating is not just the staggering wealth involved, it is the human story behind it. Imagine ordinary people, like treasure hunters and local villagers, drawn into a web of danger, secrecy, and opportunity, risking life and limb in search of fortune. Picture brilliant military minds, like General Yamashita, the so-called Tiger of Malaya, orchestrating the burial of gold in hidden vaults, encoded maps, and booby-trapped tunnels designed to thwart even the most determined seekers. Every twist of this story blurs the line between myth and history, leaving us to wonder how much of it is real and how much is legend. Over the decades, countless adventurers have ventured into the Philippine wilderness, guided by eyewitness accounts and tantalizing clues. Among them was Roger Rosas, a determined locksmith whose obsession with the treasure consumed his life. From hacking through thick jungle undergrowth to deciphering ancient codes, Roger's journey embodies the courage, persistence, and peril that define the search for Yamashita's gold. Each discovery, each setback, and each encounter with danger adds another layer of intrigue to this epic story. But beyond the thrill of hidden riches, Yamashita's gold reminds us of the enduring power of history. It is a story of human ambition, the consequences of war, and the relentless pursuit of dreams that seem almost impossible. And while the treasure may remain hidden to this day, the legend itself continues to inspire explorers, historians, and storytellers around the world. If you are fascinated by history's greatest mysteries, incredible adventures, and stories that push the limits of imagination, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Join us as we dive deeper into the secrets, legends, and untold stories of the past, because this journey has only just begun, and the hunt for Yamashita's gold is a story you want to miss. As the Second World War engulfed Southeast Asia, a shadowy and meticulously planned operation unfolded behind the headlines of battles and military campaigns. An operation so audacious that it would shape the legends of treasure hunting for decades to come. This was the Golden Lily Project, a secret Japanese mission orchestrated under the watchful eyes of Prince Chichibu, the emperor's brother, whose reputation as both a brilliant strategist and a scholar lent the operation an air of cold precision and intellectual rigor. While soldiers advanced across cities and countrysides, looting and conquest appeared as routine consequences of war. Golden Lily elevated plunder to an almost scientific art. Every target was chosen with careful deliberation, from the ornate halls of museums and temples to the bustling vaults of banks and the shadowed corners of black markets, leaving virtually nothing of value untouched. It was not mere theft. It was a systematic extraction of wealth that required a keen understanding of human behavior, logistics, and the hidden patterns of society itself. Prince Chichibu's leadership set Golden Lily apart from typical acts of wartime plunder, because he approached it with the mindset of a strategist and a historian. Every step of the operation was calculated. Teams of operatives surveyed regions long before the arrival of Japanese forces, documenting the locations of treasures with astonishing accuracy. They assessed not only the obvious catches of gold and currency but also the hidden gems, priceless artifacts, and rare manuscripts that were often overlooked. In temples, they measured and weighed religious icons. In museums, they catalogued paintings, sculptures, and relics. In private estates, they mapped secret storage chambers. Even the underworld, the black markets that thrived quietly within occupied cities, became targets. Nothing of value was too small to escape their scrutiny, and no location was too obscure to avoid meticulous attention. Through this meticulous planning, the Golden Lily operation ensured that the empire's coffers would swell not just with tangible wealth, but with the prestige and control that accompany absolute dominion over conquered territories. The logistics behind this operation were equally remarkable, almost bordering on the miraculous given the era's technological limitations. Gold and precious metals were melted down into ingots, a process that erased identifying marks and ensured that, if transported, the origin of the treasure could not be traced. This clever tactic served a dual purpose. Not only did it disguise the origins of the loot, making it appear as though it had been produced in Japan itself, but it also allowed for easier transportation across the vast and perilous stretches of Southeast Asia, where supply lines were vulnerable to Allied interception. Each ingot, each crate of artifacts, each carefully packed bundle of jewels became a symbol of the empire's reach and the brilliance of its planners, silently moving through occupied cities, hidden in plain sight, while the world focused on the visible theater of war. Yet even as Golden Lily achieved unparalleled efficiency, the human element of the operation remained as cruel and relentless as the machinery of war itself. Local labor, prisoners of war, and coerced workers were pressed into service to construct hidden vaults, transport treasure through rugged terrain, and execute the intricate plans laid out by Prince Chichibu and his officers. These men and women often had no knowledge of the broader strategy, yet their labor was indispensable. Many paid with their lives, discarded once they had served their purpose, a grim reminder of the costs borne silently in the shadows of history. Despite the moral darkness, the operation's architects moved with clinical precision, ensuring that every step of the process from identifying targets to transporting, melting, and securing the treasure was executed flawlessly. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Golden Lily was the sheer audacity of the secrecy involved. Maps detailing treasure locations were encoded in an ancient Japanese script, a language virtually extinct, accessible only to those trained to interpret its complex symbols. Landmarks were represented by obscure characters, topographical features deliberately omitted or disguised, and elaborate traps both natural and engineered were embedded within the plans. Vaults were booby-trapped with explosives, poison, and clever manipulations of the environment, such as water tables designed to flood tunnels unexpectedly. Anyone attempting to locate these treasures without the proper knowledge would risk death, while those inside the operation possessed only fragmented understanding, bound by secrecy and fear. Every layer of the system was intended to protect the wealth from both enemies and opportunists, ensuring that the treasures remained hidden until the empire deemed it safe to retrieve them. In the midst of this grand design, the Golden Lily operation also served as a testament to human ingenuity in the face of extreme adversity. It was a blend of strategy, engineering, and psychological manipulation, a reminder that even in times of conflict, the human mind can create systems of astonishing complexity. Prince Chichibu's vision transformed plunder into an art form, blending meticulous planning with the ruthless realities of wartime necessity. And while the treasures themselves became the focus of myths, legends, and decades of treasure hunting, the true story lies in the intricate choreography of people, plans, and peril that enabled the operation to unfold with such chilling precision. The legend of Yamashita's gold, so often recounted through the eyes of modern treasure hunters, finds its roots here in the calculated, shadowed corridors of power, strategy, and ambition, where every decision shaped the fate of fortunes yet to be uncovered. Even today, the echoes of Golden Lily continue to captivate imaginations, inspiring historians and adventurers alike, reminding us that some of history's most extraordinary tales are not merely about wealth, but about vision, cunning, and the lengths to which people will go to secure, protect, or seek that which others have hidden away. It is a story of power, secrecy, and relentless pursuit, a story that continues to unfold in the jungles and mountains of the Philippines, and in the minds of all who dare to follow its trail. As the Golden Lily operation reached its peak, the question of how to safely transport the staggering wealth became the most pressing challenge. For the gold and treasures of Southeast Asia were far too valuable to risk in the turbulent waters and chaotic territories of wartime Asia. The solution, both elegant and cunning, lay in the transformation of the treasures themselves. Gold, in its raw form or as ornate artifacts, could betray its origins through markings, mint stamps, or distinctive craftsmanship, potentially exposing the operation to Allied forces, local authorities, or even opportunistic collaborators. To avoid this, every ounce of gold was melted down, recast into uniform ingots, stripped of any trace of origin, and made ready for a journey that would test the ingenuity and daring of those tasked with transporting it. This alchemical process served not only as a practical measure for safety and transport but also as a symbolic act, turning the diverse spoils of conquest into standardized, untraceable symbols of power and wealth, a silent testament to the meticulous planning and foresight that underpinned the Golden Lily operation. Once recast, the gold began its perilous journey across the Philippines, a nation of thousands of islands, treacherous coastlines, and dense jungle interiors, selected carefully for its strategic location at the heart of the Japanese-controlled territories. The Philippines offered both centrality and concealment, a network of natural harbors, hidden coves, and remote highlands that allowed the operatives to move treasure under the cover of secrecy, while maintaining proximity to Japan itself. Ships laden with ingots navigated treacherous waters, often under the constant threat of enemy patrols, storms, and logistical complications that could scatter or sink an entire fortune in a single miscalculated voyage. Every movement of the gold had to be meticulously timed, planned, and protected, a delicate dance between precision, patience, and the unpredictable chaos of wartime operations. But the challenge was not only in transportation. It extended into the very psychology of concealment. Melting the gold allowed the operatives to remove the visible signs of its previous life, disguising it as purely Japanese in origin once it reached the homeland, a deception that could evade scrutiny from both allies and adversaries. Each ingot was a blank canvas of power, stripped of history and ready to be claimed as a symbol of national wealth. Yet it carried within it the echoes of countless cities, temples, and private estates, silently whispering the stories of conquest and ambition that had produced it. The process required skilled metallurgists, secretive workshops, and carefully guarded instructions, for any mistake could reveal the origin of the gold, compromise the mission, and place the lives of those involved in immediate danger. Transporting the gold through the Philippines was not a matter of simple shipping, became an exercise in strategy, secrecy, and survival. High-ranking officers, under the orders of the operations architects, coordinated the movement of the ingots through hidden routes, often relying on local guides, coerced laborers, or prisoners of war, each group unaware of the full scope of the mission but indispensable to its success. The treasures traveled through mountain trails carved into the jungle, across rivers navigated by small, unassuming boats, and into hidden caches that would wait for the final leg of their journey. Even as American forces began to gain the upper hand in the Pacific, the operation adapted, hiding treasure in tunnels, vaults, and secret bunkers, turning the islands into a labyrinth of wealth concealed under layers of earth, stone, and secrecy. The recasting of the gold into ingots also transformed the very nature of the treasure hunt itself for generations to come. Those who would later search for Yamashita's gold had to contend not only with rumors and legends, but with the tangible evidence of the operation's cunning. Ingots that carried no markings, hidden in places that could only be accessed with maps written in ancient codes, protected by booby traps and natural defenses that had been meticulously planned decades before. The melting of the gold was not merely a logistical step, it became part of the legend, a testament to the foresight and ruthlessness of those who orchestrated its concealment. Moreover, the transportation of gold through the Philippines showcased the remarkable coordination required to move immense wealth during wartime. Every shipment was a high-stakes gamble, balancing speed, secrecy, and the limitations of the era's infrastructure. Operatives had to account for unpredictable weather, the threat of Allied interception, and the growing unrest in occupied territories. Each successful shipment was a minor miracle, a triumph of planning and audacity. Yet it also carried the constant shadow of failure. For a single misstep could mean the loss of millions in gold, the endangerment of lives, and the unraveling of one of history's most remarkable covert operations. This careful orchestration of melting, transporting, and concealing the gold laid the foundation for the enduring mystery of Yamashita's treasure. While the war eventually ended and the fate of the gold became obscured by time, rumors, and political intrigue, the traces of the operation remained, scattered across islands, hidden within mountains, and embedded in the memories of those who had participated. Every ingot carried a history, a story of conquest, cunning, and careful manipulation, waiting for those brave or desperate enough to seek it. The melting of gold into ingots was more than a practical necessity. It was a transformative act that turned spoils of war into a legend, a symbol of human ambition, ingenuity, and the relentless drive to conceal, protect, and ultimately claim wealth beyond imagining. Through this lens, the journey of the gold becomes not just a tale of treasure, but a story of strategy, risk, and human ingenuity, where every decision, every action, and every hidden route contributed to a saga that continues to captivate historians, adventurers, and storytellers more than 70 years later. A saga that binds the fate of empires to the imagination of those who dare to follow its trail. As the tides of war shifted in the Pacific, Japan faced an unprecedented dilemma. The treasure that had been meticulously looted from across Southeast Asia was now too vulnerable to be transported safely to the homeland, and the advancing Allied forces threatened to intercept or destroy it. Into this precarious situation stepped one of Japan's most formidable military minds, General Yamashita, whose brilliant campaigns in Malaya had earned him the fearsome nickname Tiger of Malaya, renowned for his audacity, strategic genius, and unflinching ruthlessness. Yamashita was entrusted with a mission of extraordinary importance, an assignment that required not only military skill, but also a cunning unmatched in the annals of warfare. To conceal the vast wealth of the Golden Lily operation deep within the Philippine archipelago, ensuring it would survive the chaos of a crumbling empire. Yamashita approached this challenge with the precision and foresight that had defined his career. He recognized immediately that the gold, jewels, and artifacts could not simply be buried or hidden in obvious locations. They required a system both complex and impenetrable, designed to confound any who might attempt to claim it. Drawing upon his deep understanding of terrain, logistics, and human behavior, he identified hundreds of secluded sites scattered across the mountainous regions and dense jungles of the Philippines. Places where the natural environment itself would serve as both shield and obstacle. Rivers, cliffs, thick vegetation, and remote valleys were all chosen deliberately. Each location selected not only for concealment but for the difficulty it would present to anyone attempting to reach it without intimate knowledge of the terrain. Every decision reflected a blend of strategic acumen and an understanding of the psychology of those who might pursue the treasure in the future, creating layers of challenge and deception that were as intellectual as they were physical. To secure the treasure, Yamashita oversaw the construction of tunnels and vaults carved into the mountains and hidden beneath the forest canopy. These were not mere pits or shallow excavations. They were sophisticated networks designed to store unimaginable wealth while remaining impervious to discovery. The tunnels were reinforced with stone and timber, engineered to withstand time and environmental pressures, and often extended for hundreds of meters beneath the earth. Their entrances obscured by natural formations or expertly camouflaged man-made structures. Each vault was more than a hiding place, it was a fortress. A deliberate blend of engineering and subterfuge that reflected the high stakes of the mission. The tunnels themselves became a labyrinth, a subterranean puzzle that would test the wits, endurance, and courage of anyone daring enough to enter. Maps were crafted with the utmost care, encoded in a centuries-old script known only to a select few, a language so archaic and complex that its very characters served as a barrier to the uninitiated. Landmarks were represented in symbolic form, topographical features obscured or omitted entirely, and instructions embedded within the text to guide only those with the proper training. These maps were not merely guides, they were keys to survival, each detail deliberate, each nuance potentially the difference between discovery and disaster. To further ensure secrecy, the number of people privy to the treasure's location was strictly limited, often to a single officer or trusted subordinate, while the laborers who physically dug the tunnels remained ignorant of the broader purpose, bound to the task through fear, coercion, or necessity. This extreme compartmentalization guaranteed that knowledge was fragmented, reducing the risk that the secrets could be leaked, whether intentionally or accidentally. Deadly traps completed the defense of the treasure, a terrifying testament to the lengths Yamashita was willing to go to protect it. Explosives, hidden pitfalls, tripwires, and ingeniously designed flooding mechanisms transformed the tunnels into gauntlets, where even a single misstep could prove fatal. Poisonous substances were employed, decoy passages led intruders into dead ends, and structural tricks leveraged the environment itself to create hazards that were almost invisible to the untrained eye. It was a system designed not merely to hide wealth but to repel, deter, and, if necessary, eliminate those who sought it without permission. Each trap, each concealed barrier, each deceptive turn of a tunnel served the dual purpose of security and psychological intimidation. A silent warning to all who might imagine the treasure could be taken without consequence. The scale and sophistication of Yamashita's operation were staggering, a feat that blended military strategy with architectural ingenuity and human psychology. The gold was not simply hidden. It was transformed into an enduring puzzle, a layered narrative of concealment that would challenge treasure hunters for generations. Every detail, from the placement of ingots in secret chambers to the encoded maps and the design of traps, reflected a mind attuned to both the art of war and the demands of secrecy. even as the war raged around him, with the Philippines becoming a contested and bloody battleground. Yamashita maintained focus on his objective, orchestrating the burial of the Golden Lily's wealth with methodical determination, aware that the survival of the treasure depended on precision, foresight, and an intimate understanding of both men and landscape. The legacy of this endeavor, while shrouded in myth and rumor, endures in the stories of those who later sought Yamashita's gold, a testament to the genius and ruthlessness of the Tiger of Malaya. The tunnels, maps, and traps he created became the foundation of a legend, inspiring decades of speculation, treasure hunts, and scholarly investigation. Beyond the glittering promise of wealth, the story serves as a vivid illustration of the lengths to which a brilliant strategist could go to safeguard a treasure. Blending foresight, ingenuity, and lethal determination into a system that remains unmatched in history, Yamashita's efforts transformed the simple act of hiding gold into a dramatic saga of strategy, secrecy, and survival, leaving behind a trail of mystery that continues to captivate the imagination of historians, adventurers, and dreamers alike, a saga of hidden wealth that remains, even today, as enigmatic and compelling as the man who orchestrated it. As General Tomoyuki Yamashita's campaign to safeguard the Golden Lily treasure intensified, he understood that concealment alone would not suffice. The sheer magnitude and value of the gold demanded extraordinary measures to ensure that no one could stumble upon it, willingly or by accident. The solution lay beneath the earth itself, where Yamashita envisioned an intricate network of underground vaults hidden deep within the most remote and inaccessible regions of the Philippine archipelago. These vaults were not mere storage chambers. They were elaborate constructs, designed with both engineering ingenuity and lethal precision, where the natural environment was manipulated to serve as both protector and deterrent. The thick jungles, jagged mountains, and winding rivers provided an initial layer of security, but it was Yamashita's cunning and attention to detail that transformed these landscapes into near impenetrable fortresses, capable of withstanding not just discovery but deliberate attempts to breach them. Each vault was carefully positioned in locations chosen for their isolation and difficulty of access, far from populated areas and well-traveled routes, and often concealed under dense foliage, boulders, or the deceptive patterns of the jungle itself. The entrances were masked so effectively that without prior knowledge or guidance, even the most determined searcher would pass by countless sites without realizing their significance. Inside, the tunnels and chambers were reinforced against collapse, meticulously constructed with stone, timber, and earth to endure the passage of time and the pressures of the surrounding terrain. A subterranean network could rival the ingenuity of any military fortification of the era. Every detail reflected Yamashita's understanding that the value of the treasure made it a target not just for treasure hunters, but for those desperate or clever enough to exploit any weakness. To amplify security, Yamashita implemented an array of deadly defenses, a combination of booby traps, explosives, and poisonous hazards that transformed each vault into a gauntlet for the uninitiated. Tripwires were hidden beneath leaves or camouflaged along walls, triggering mechanisms that could release lethal force, while decoy chambers and misleading passages were strategically constructed to confuse and exhaust intruders. Some tunnels were designed to flood or collapse, exploiting the natural properties of the environment, while others contained hidden compartments where poison or other hazards awaited anyone unversed in the complex layout. The genius of these traps lay in their integration with the tunnels themselves. The hazards were not obvious, and the danger was compounded by the natural disorientation of a labyrinthine underground structure, ensuring that those without a map or proper guidance would face overwhelming peril. Maps were encoded in a centuries-old Japanese script, known only to a select few officers, representing landmarks in symbolic form that would be meaningless to anyone lacking the knowledge to decode them. The laborers tasked with constructing these vaults often had no idea of the purpose behind their work. They carved and reinforced the tunnels under duress, unaware of the treasures that would eventually occupy the chambers, and most were never allowed to leave with their knowledge intact. This compartmentalization was a calculated measure, reducing the number of individuals who could betray the location of the treasure, whether intentionally or through negligence. In effect, Yamashita's strategy ensured that the very act of discovering the gold without proper guidance could be fatal, reinforcing the mystique and near impossibility of recovering it. The vaults themselves were filled with an astonishing variety of items: gold ingots, jewelry, statues, and artifacts that reflected the wide reach of Japan's looting campaigns. Yet their placement within the tunnels was deliberate, designed not merely for storage but to complicate any potential recovery. Layers of protection, decoys, and redundancy were built into each chamber, creating a multidimensional puzzle that combined geography, engineering, and coded knowledge. Every vault became a microcosm of strategy, a place where wealth, danger, and secrecy intersected with precision. Even after the immediate threat of war had passed, these underground fortresses stood as silent guardians of a vanished empire's stolen riches, their secrets encoded in maps, traps, and the memories of those who had participated in their construction. Yamashita's foresight extended beyond the physical construction. He anticipated that, in the event of Japan's defeat, the treasure would attract generations of seekers, adventurers, and opportunists, and he engineered the vaults to endure through time and uncertainty. The tunnels were designed to be both concealed and resilient, exploiting the environment's capacity to reclaim and obscure human intervention. Dense jungle growth, shifting soil, and natural erosion would obscure entrances, while the internal layout of the tunnels made orientation nearly impossible for the untrained eye. In this way, the vaults were both a monument to Yamashita's genius and a lasting challenge, ensuring that the treasure's recovery would remain elusive. The dangers as real decades after the gold was first hidden as they were on the day the vaults were sealed. The combination of secretive construction, encoded maps, and lethal defenses transformed the Philippine landscape into a living labyrinth of hidden wealth. Yamashita's design was not only a military maneuver but also a psychological one, embedding fear, uncertainty, and complexity into every aspect of the treasure's concealment. The ingenuity of his approach has left a legacy that continues to captivate historians, treasure hunters, and storytellers alike. A tale where each tunnel, trap, and secret map contributes to an enduring mystery that defies simple explanation. Even today, decades later, the legend of these underground vaults endures. Inspiring expeditions, speculation, and scholarly debate. The precise locations of the tunnels, the combination of their deadly defenses, and the encoded instructions left behind all contribute to the enduring enigma of Yamashita's gold. While the treasure itself may remain beyond reach, the story of its concealment is a testament to the remarkable blend of military strategy, engineering skill, and psychological insight that defined Yamashita's efforts. Each vault, each trap, and each map is more than a physical barrier. It is a narrative of meticulous planning and audacious ambition, a story written into the very soil and stone of the Philippine jungles, waiting to be discovered by those daring or fortunate enough to follow the trail. Born in 1943, just as World War II raged across the Pacific and the Golden Lily treasure was being buried in the Philippines, Roger Rose entered a world shaped by conflict, scarcity, and stories of unimaginable wealth hidden in his homeland. Growing up near Baguio, a city cradled by mountains and dense jungle, Roger's childhood was marked by hardship, the daily reality of poverty, and the lingering echoes of wartime devastation. Yet, amid the struggles of his early years, he was captivated by tales passed down through his family and local lore about Yamashita's gold, the legendary treasure amassed from Japan's systematic looting of Southeast Asia and concealed in the mountains by the fearsome tiger of Malaya. These stories were more than mere entertainment. They were a beacon of possibility, a symbol of hope that inspired Roger to dream beyond the limitations of his immediate circumstances and imagine a life transformed by fortune. From an early age, Roger exhibited a determination and curiosity that would define his later quest. The stories of hidden vaults, coded maps, and tunnels laden with gold captured his imagination, but he approached them not as fantastical myths, but as historical puzzles to be solved. He recognized that uncovering the treasure would require more than luck. It demanded meticulous planning, perseverance, and a deep understanding of both the terrain and the strategies employed by Yamashita. The young Roger absorbed every fragment of information he could find, collecting maps, reading accounts from wartime survivors, and learning from the experiences of earlier treasure hunters. Each story, each diagram, and each anecdote became a piece of a complex puzzle, and over time, his knowledge coalesced into a methodical approach that blended history, logic, and intuition. As he matured, Roger's passion for the treasure evolved into a lifelong mission. By the time he reached adulthood, he had spent decades exploring the rugged terrain surrounding Baguio, navigating steep hills, dense forests, and hidden valleys in pursuit of the fabled gold. The mountains, once simply a backdrop to his childhood, became a labyrinth of opportunity and danger, each ridge and ravine potentially concealing the remnants of Yamashita's secret vaults. Roger's methodology was painstaking. He cross-referenced historical maps with the physical landscape, studied coded symbols, and listened to the accounts of elders who had witnessed wartime events. He knew that even the most carefully constructed tunnel could be disguised by the passage of decades, overgrowth, and natural erosion, and he approached each site with a combination of caution and determination, aware that the treasure's recovery was as much a test of patience and endurance as of intellect. One of Roger's most powerful tools in his search was the use of metal detectors, technology that allowed him to probe beneath the surface with a precision unattainable by mere observation. Day after day, he would sweep the dense undergrowth, the buzzing signal of the device a potential harbinger of discovery. Each beep was a thrill, a tentative connection to the past, a whisper from the hidden world beneath his feet. Yet, the search was rarely straightforward. Many leads proved false. Maps turned out to be fakes. Eyewitness accounts were unreliable, and the terrain itself resisted even the most determined exploration. In spite of these setbacks, Roger's persistence never wavered. Each failure was analyzed, each misstep a lesson, and his resolve grew stronger with every obstacle, reinforcing the conviction that the gold was out there, waiting for someone patient, clever, and fearless enough to find it. The quest was also deeply personal. Roger was not merely chasing wealth. He was driven by a sense of destiny and connection to history. The treasure represented more than gold and artifacts. It was a tangible link to the past, testament to the ingenuity and ruthlessness of Yamashita, and a symbol of the resilience and ingenuity required to recover it. Every climb up a rugged hillside, every hour spent deciphering a coded map, and every sweep of the metal detector through the undergrowth was a dialogue with history itself, a chance to participate in a story that had remained unfinished for decades. Roger understood that success would require both intellect and courage, a willingness to face physical danger and navigate the psychological challenges posed by uncertainty. False leads and the ever-present threat of natural hazards. Over the years, Roger's knowledge of the Philippine landscape became encyclopedic. He could recognize subtle changes in vegetation that might indicate a buried vault, interpret the symbolic language of coded maps, and anticipate where Yamashita's strategic mind would have placed traps and obstacles. His methods combined empirical observation with historical reasoning. He treated every rumor, every fragment of legend, as a potential clue, analyzing it critically and connecting it with physical evidence. This approach required immense patience, for years of work often yielded no tangible results. But each small discovery, each piece of corroborated information, brought him closer to the treasure, reinforcing the idea that history, careful observation, and relentless effort could unlock secrets long thought lost. The search was not without danger. Dense jungles concealed snakes, insects, and treacherous terrain, while the tunnels and vaults themselves, often built under duress and abandoned in haste, could collapse or contain hidden traps. Roger faced the psychological strain of isolation, the frustration of repeated false leads, and the constant awareness that the treasure, if it existed as legend claimed, was coveted by others and that he might not be the only one seeking it. Yet, despite these challenges, his commitment never faltered. The vision of unearthing the hidden wealth, of holding in his hands the product of history and the spoils of a bygone empire, sustained him through decades of toil, danger, and uncertainty. Roger's decades-long pursuit of Yamashita's gold illustrates the fusion of historical curiosity, relentless determination, and human ingenuity. From his humble beginnings near Baguio to the meticulous exploration of jungles, valleys, and encoded maps, Roger's journey embodies the allure and peril of treasure hunting, where history and legend intersect, and where perseverance and intellect can transform a lifelong dream into the tantalizing possibility of discovery. His story is a testament to the human spirit, the power of imagination, and the enduring fascination of one of the greatest treasures lost to history. A pursuit that connects the past to the present through courage, intellect, and unwavering resolve. As the legend of Yamashita's gold persisted through the decades, it became impossible to ignore not only for treasure hunters like Roger Rose, but also for figures of power who saw the treasure as a means to consolidate wealth and influence. Among them was Ferdinand Marcos, the President of the Philippines, whose ambition and political acumen were matched only by his willingness to bend or break the rules to achieve his goals. Marcos, aware of the decades-long efforts by treasure hunters scouring the mountains and jungles for the elusive gold, devised a strategy that merged bureaucracy with intimidation, ensuring that he could assert control over both the search and the spoils. The approach was deceptively simple yet ruthlessly effective. He required anyone wishing to search for hidden treasure to obtain a government-issued permit, detailing the location and scope of their excavation. On the surface, this appeared to be a routine measure, a form of regulation to prevent accidents or protect the environment. But in reality, it was a cunning means to map the locations of potential treasure while simultaneously keeping all activity under his scrutiny. Roger, like many others, found himself navigating this complex system. For him, the permit represented both opportunity and risk. It offered legal protection to dig, but it also placed his discoveries squarely in the awareness of Marcos and his inner circle. The permit system effectively turned treasure hunters into unwitting informants, as each application disclosed the exact sites they intended to explore. For Marcos, this intelligence was invaluable. It allowed him to monitor activity across the archipelago and identify promising leads without lifting a pickaxe himself. It also enabled him to exercise leverage over those who discovered significant finds, controlling their access and, when necessary, employing coercion to ensure compliance or to claim the treasure outright. This strategy was emblematic of Marcos' broader approach to power. On the surface, he projected a veneer of legality, competence, and rational governance, but beneath it lay a capacity for calculated ruthlessness. The permits were not the only tool he employed. Rumors abound of intimidation, threats, and even physical coercion to ensure that wealth flowed to him rather than to the independent hunters who risked their lives in the search. For Roger, this meant that the culmination of years of work, navigating dangerous terrain, decoding maps, and enduring the hardships of the jungle, could be instantly undermined by a single encounter with the machinery of state power. Yet, it also introduced a psychological dimension to the hunt. Treasure was no longer simply a test of persistence, intelligence, and skill. It had become a negotiation with authority, a dangerous game where political influence could override the logic of discovery. The stakes were extraordinary. For Marcos, obtaining Yamashita's gold was about more than personal wealth. It was a symbol of invincibility, a resource that could cement his status as the nation's most powerful man, enabling political patronage, influence, and the luxurious lifestyle that became synonymous with his regime. For Roger, and countless others, the treasure represented the culmination of a lifelong pursuit, the promise of historical vindication and financial security. Yet every step closer to success carried the shadow of coercion and potential danger. The intersection of ambition, greed, and secrecy created a tense and complex dynamic, one where decades of meticulous searching could be rendered moot by political maneuvering, and where the risks extended far beyond the jungle's natural hazards to the very human capacity for corruption and exploitation. Marcos' control over the permits also facilitated his capacity to orchestrate elaborate deceptions. By controlling which treasure hunters could dig where, he could manipulate the discovery process, substituting false artifacts or staging recoveries that enhanced his image while diverting attention from the locations of the most valuable caches. Stories abound of supposed finds that were intercepted, altered, or misrepresented, reinforcing Marcos' reputation as both a shrewd strategist and a formidable obstacle to anyone attempting to claim the treasure independently. For Roger, these interventions transformed his pursuit from a straightforward archaeological and historical quest into a high-stakes confrontation with political power, forcing him to navigate a treacherous landscape of trust, secrecy, and potential betrayal. The personal toll of this dynamic was significant. Roger's years of labor, physical exertion, and meticulous research were constantly overshadowed by the possibility that his efforts could be co-opted or confiscated by Marcos' agents. The psychological strain of such uncertainty combined with the physical demands of navigating dense jungle, hazardous terrain, and treacherous tunnels added an intense layer of complexity to an already grueling endeavor. Each day of work carried the dual weight of hope and fear. Hope that he was nearing the culmination of a lifelong search, and fear that external forces could nullify all progress in an instant. Yet, it was precisely this high-stakes environment that defined the narrative of Yamashita's gold in the post-war period, illustrating how historical artifacts of immense value intersected with human ambition, power, and morality. By intertwining legal mechanisms, personal coercion, and psychological manipulation, Marcos created a climate in which treasure hunting became a perilous endeavor not only because of physical danger but also because of the omnipresent influence of political authority. For the local population, and for historians and adventurers alike, this reality complicated the simple allure of hidden gold, demonstrating that the quest for Yamashita's treasure was as much about navigating social and political landscapes as it was about mapping tunnels and decoding ancient inscriptions. The permits, intimidation tactics, and subtle manipulation of discovery reflected a broader theme, that extraordinary wealth, once secreted away, inevitably attracts attention and engenders conflict, revealing the capacity for both human ingenuity and human corruption in equal measure. Through decades of navigating this labyrinth, both literal and figurative, Roger remained committed to the pursuit, embodying the dual struggle of historical exploration and personal endurance. The interplay between Marco's strategic control and Roger's relentless determination created a narrative of tension and suspense, where each excavation, each discovery, and each encounter with authority carried profound implications. The story of Yamashita's gold, therefore, is not simply one of hidden treasure. It is a vivid account of human ambition, resilience, and the complex dance between power and perseverance that shapes history, legend, and the enduring allure of a fortune that remains tantalizingly out of reach. After years of tireless searching, Roger Rose finally reached the moment every treasure hunter dreams of: the glimmer of gold hidden deep within the Philippine jungle. His perseverance, intuition, and painstaking study of maps, coded inscriptions, and historical accounts had brought him to the threshold of discovery, a moment suspended between hope and history. It was there, behind a collapsed wall within a tunnel near Baguio, that his metal detector emitted a long-awaited buzz, a sound that echoed with the promise of centuries-old secrets and unimaginable wealth. As he and his team cleared away the debris, they uncovered a golden statue of Buddha, encrusted with diamonds, a sight that made the heart race and the mind reel with the sheer magnitude of the find. Surrounding the statue were indications of other treasures: gold ingots, ornate artifacts, and relics that spoke of the Golden Lily operation, the clandestine effort to amass and hide the spoils of Japan's wartime conquests. In that instant, it seemed that Roger's lifelong pursuit had finally borne fruit. The legends that had haunted and inspired him for decades made tangible, their reality surpassing even his wildest dreams. But in the world of Yamashita's gold, triumph was never simple, and the exhilaration of discovery quickly collided with the harsh realities of power and greed. Ferdinand Marcos, who had long maintained an interest in the treasure, had established a network of surveillance, permits, and agents to ensure that any significant find could be swiftly redirected to his advantage. Before Roger could even savor his victory, a group of Marcos' men appeared at his home in the dead of night, a silent testament to the reach and ruthlessness of the regime. The golden Buddha, the fruit of years of painstaking effort, was seized, along with other treasures, leaving Roger with nothing but the echo of his success and the knowledge that the rewards of his labor had been snatched away. The confiscation was more than a loss of material wealth. It was a profound violation of trust and a reminder that the pursuit of historical treasures often intersects with forces far larger and more dangerous than any single individual. The aftermath of the seizure plunged Roger into a period of extraordinary personal and psychological strain. Marco's agents, operating under a veil of legality but driven by coercive force, subjected him to brutal interrogation and physical torture in an attempt to extract the locations of other catches. For days, Roger endured beatings, burns, and electric shocks, a relentless regimen designed to break both body and spirit, testing his endurance in ways that no amount of jungle labor or intellectual analysis could have prepared him for. Amid the pain and fear, he faced the internal struggle of resisting the temptation to capitulate to his tormentors, while also grappling with the very real risk of death. Each day was a delicate balancing act between survival and the protection of the knowledge he had painstakingly acquired, a struggle that blurred the lines between physical endurance and mental fortitude. The personal consequences extended beyond the immediate dangers of torture. Roger lost his savings, which had been poured into decades of excavation, equipment, and laborers, the tangible resources that had enabled his search now gone in an instant. His social and familial life was fractured, the stress and disruption of the ordeal placing immense pressure on relationships that had sustained him through years of arduous work. The psychological toll of betrayal and the loss of self-agency weighed heavily, creating a sense of vulnerability and displacement that lasted long after the physical wounds had healed. Yet, despite these overwhelming challenges, Roger's resolve remained, a testament to the deep commitment that had driven him to pursue the treasure for decades, and to the resilience required to face both human and environmental obstacles without surrender. Even as he endured personal loss, Roger's discovery had a wider impact. The seizure of the Buddha and associated treasures by Marcos became a scandal, drawing public attention and scrutiny, highlighting the corruption and audacity of those in positions of power. Newspapers reported on the events, framing the story as a tale of exploitation and intrigue that captivated the nation and offered a rare glimpse into the hidden intersection of history, wealth, and political maneuvering. Roger's experiences illustrated the dual nature of treasure hunting. While it is a pursuit of historical and material discovery, it is inseparably entwined with the social and political context, and the fortunes it promises can be as fleeting and precarious as the gold itself. Despite the hardships, Roger's discoveries and experiences were never entirely in vain. The Golden Buddha, though confiscated, symbolized the tangible reality of the legend, proving that Yamashita's gold was not mere myth. The knowledge he accumulated, the tunnels he mapped, and the techniques he refined became part of a broader historical record, offering invaluable insight into both the mechanics of the treasure's concealment and the enduring human fascination with its recovery. Each artifact, each map, and each encoded message he encountered contributed to an understanding of the Golden Lily operation, the strategies employed to secure immense wealth, and the lengths to which individuals would go to protect or exploit it. Roger's ordeal also underscored the profound moral dimensions inherent in the pursuit of treasure. The juxtaposition of historical achievement and human cruelty, of personal aspiration and systemic exploitation, offered a cautionary narrative about the limits of human control, the consequences of ambition, and the unpredictable intersection of luck, skill, and power. In this sense, the story of Roger Rose and the Golden Buddha serves as both inspiration and warning. Inspiration in the relentless dedication to a lifelong quest, and warning in the vulnerabilities that such pursuits can expose when intersecting with political authority and greed. Ultimately, Roger's brief discovery, the subsequent confiscation of treasures, and the personal suffering he endured illustrate the complex, high-stakes world surrounding Yamashita's gold. It is a world where history, ambition, and human tenacity converge, and where triumph can be as fleeting as it is exhilarating. His story captures the thrill of discovery, the pain of loss, and the enduring quest for justice and recognition in the shadow of one of the most legendary treasures ever concealed, a tale that continues to fascinate, instruct, and inspire those drawn to the mysteries of the past. Decades after the harrowing events that had unfolded around Yamashita's gold, the story of Roger Rose and his discovery continued to ripple through the Philippines, evolving from whispered legend into a legal and historical saga that captured national and international attention. The long arc of justice, delayed but persistent, eventually brought some measure of vindication to the man whose life had been nearly destroyed by the machinations of power. After years of painstaking investigation, legal wrangling, and public scrutiny, courts ultimately acknowledged what many had suspected for decades, that Ferdinand Marcos, the once dominant figure whose reach had seemed limitless, had exploited his authority to seize the treasures discovered by Roger. The judicial process, while slow and fraught with procedural complexity, reflected the weight of historical evidence, eyewitness testimony, and meticulous documentation that could no longer be ignored. It was a formal recognition that the gold, the artifacts, and the wealth that Marcos had so brazenly appropriated were indeed the fruits of Rojas' decades of labor, perseverance, and discovery. The court's decision was monumental, not merely for the financial implications, but for its affirmation of principle. The law, though delayed, could confront even the most powerful figures and restore a sense of accountability in the face of audacious corruption. The damages awarded to Roger amounted to an astonishing $43 billion, a figure that underscored the extraordinary value of the treasures and the magnitude of the injustice he had suffered. While the sum was staggering in numerical terms, it also symbolized recognition of his perseverance, courage, and unwavering dedication to uncovering a hidden chapter of history that had remained concealed for decades. This award, the largest civil judgment in Philippine history and one of the most significant in the world, carried the weight of historical and moral validation, signaling to the broader public that individual endeavor and historical truth could, at last, overcome the force of political manipulation. Yet the triumph was bittersweet. Roger, whose life had been scarred by years of physical suffering, psychological strain, and personal loss, did not live to witness the full realization of justice. The protracted timeline of litigation and appeals meant that the reward, as substantial as it was, arrived only after he had passed away, leaving those who knew him to grapple with a mixture of relief, pride, and sorrow. The narrative of his life thus became a poignant illustration of the tension between human endurance and the inexorable pace of institutional processes, where recognition and recompense can arrive too late to fully heal the wounds inflicted by years of adversity. For those following the saga, Rojas' journey exemplified both the triumph of human resilience and the cruel irony that even monumental achievements and vindications may remain just out of reach for the individuals who earned them. The legal recognition of Marcos' theft and the award of damages also sparked wider reflection on the broader historical and societal context of Yamashita's gold. It prompted renewed investigation into the fate of other hidden catches, the methods by which the Golden Lily operation had concealed its loot, and the ongoing allure of a treasure whose very existence seemed to defy complete documentation. Scholars, historians, and treasure hunters alike examined the intersections of war, power, and human ambition, using Rojas' experience as a lens through which to explore the enduring legacy of World War II looting, the complicity of political authorities, and the moral complexities surrounding the restitution of historical assets. In this sense, the court's decision extended beyond Rojas' personal story. It reinforced the broader notion that historical justice, though imperfect and delayed, carries enduring significance in shaping collective memory, moral accountability, and the cultural imagination. Furthermore, the acknowledgement of Marcos' appropriation underscored the enduring tension between public knowledge and private greed. For decades, stories of hidden gold circulated as myths, rumors, and half-truths, captivating the imagination of ordinary citizens and adventurers alike. Rojas' ordeal, culminating in the court's decision, revealed the human cost behind these legends, the physical danger, personal sacrifices, and emotional turmoil experienced by those who dared to uncover what others sought to control. It was a vivid demonstration of the stakes involved when historical treasures intersect with contemporary power structures, highlighting how ambition, corruption, and secrecy can distort not only personal lives but also public understanding of history. The award, therefore, was more than a sum of money. It was a symbolic correction, an assertion that truth, once obscured, can eventually reemerge and claim its due recognition. The story also resonates as a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of human endeavors in the shadow of history. Roger's decades of painstaking work, his meticulous decoding of maps, and his courage in the face of both natural and human hazards illustrate the extraordinary lengths to which individuals will go in pursuit of knowledge, wealth, and legacy. Yet, his experience also illustrates that even extraordinary diligence and moral rectitude may collide with forces beyond one's control, and that the path to justice is often fraught with delay, danger, and disappointment. In this sense, the narrative of Yamashita's Gold is not merely a tale of lost treasure. It is an exploration of human resilience, the interplay between ambition and authority, and the complex moral terrain that governs the pursuit of extraordinary achievements in an imperfect world. Ultimately, the recognition of Marco's theft and the legal affirmation of Roger's claims serve as both closure and reminder. Closure for the historical record, ensuring that the truth of his discovery and the injustice he suffered is formally acknowledged, and reminder that human endeavor, no matter how suppressed or exploited, retains the capacity to assert itself. Even decades later, the saga of Roger Rose, the Golden Buddha, and the elusive Yamashita's Gold stands as a compelling testament to the endurance of human curiosity, courage, and integrity, a narrative that continues to captivate, instruct, and inspire those drawn to the enduring mysteries of history, the perils of power, and the extraordinary consequences of a lifelong pursuit finally recognized, if only after its discoverer had passed from the world. Even after decades of searching, investigation, and countless legends, the story of Yamashita's Gold remains far from complete. While some portions of the treasure have surfaced through extraordinary discoveries like those of Roger Rose, most of it remains shrouded in mystery, hidden in the dense jungles, remote mountains, and secret tunnels of the Philippines. Historians, treasure hunters, and adventurers continue to speculate about the exact number of vaults that might exist, with estimates suggesting over 174 hiding places still waiting to be uncovered. Each vault, if it exists, represents not only unimaginable wealth but also the painstaking strategy, secrecy, and ingenuity employed by General Yamashita and the operatives of the Golden Lily operation. These hiding places are believed to be protected by intricate codes, deadly traps, and natural obstacles, designed to deter any who might attempt to uncover the treasures without full knowledge of their mechanisms. The allure of Yamashita's Gold is not merely financial. It embodies a connection to history, a tangible link to one of the most dramatic periods of the 20th century, when ambition, war, and human ingenuity collided. Each map, each legend, and each story that circulates among locals and adventurers serves as a reminder of the extraordinary scale of the operations conducted by the Japanese during World War II, and the lengths to which those involved went to secure and conceal the wealth they acquired. The gold itself, while a potent symbol of material fortune, also represents courage, cunning, and the enduring human desire to explore the unknown and reclaim lost history. For many, the search is a deeply personal journey, blending elements of historical research, adventure, and the hope of discovery, driving individuals to navigate treacherous terrain, decode ancient scripts, and confront the uncertainties of a pursuit that has claimed lives and tested the limits of human endurance. Despite the dangers, the search for Yamashita's Gold continues to captivate people around the world. Enthusiasts and professional treasure hunters flock to the Philippines, combing through archives, consulting with local historians, and scouring the countryside for hints that might lead to the next breakthrough. The very act of searching connects the present to the past, allowing modern adventurers to walk the same paths trodden by wartime operatives, and to confront the same challenges, albeit under different circumstances. It is a pursuit that combines intellect, intuition, and bravery, where every clue could potentially unlock a story decades in the making. Yet, as history has shown, the rewards of such endeavors are unpredictable, often accompanied by risks that range from natural hazards to legal and ethical dilemmas, and sometimes even human treachery. The legend of Yamashita's gold has also become a cultural touchstone in the Philippines and beyond. Stories of hidden vaults, secret codes, and lost fortunes permeate local folklore, inspiring generations of adventurers and historians alike. The fascination with the treasure reflects a broader human curiosity about the past, the desire to uncover secrets that have been hidden for decades, and the thrill of imagining what might still lie beneath the earth, even when tangible gold is not discovered. The pursuit itself offers valuable lessons about history, strategy, and human resilience. It reminds us that every story, every artifact, and every map carries within it echoes of the people, societies, and conflicts that shaped a particular moment in time, offering insight not only into wealth and power but also into human ingenuity and determination. As we reflect on the legacy of Yamashita's gold, it becomes clear that the story is far more than a tale of riches. It is a narrative of endurance, courage, and the interplay between human ambition and historical circumstance. From the calculated strategies of General Yamashita and Prince Chichibu to the relentless perseverance of WWII, the saga illustrates the enduring human fascination with discovery and the lengths individuals will go to uncover what has been hidden. Each vault rumored to exist, each clue left behind in coded maps or oral histories, invites us to engage with the past, to consider the complexities of history, and to appreciate the courage and sacrifice of those who dared to seek what others could not or would not uncover. Even today, adventurers continue to scan the mountains, dig through remote forests, and sift through historical records in the hope of finding what has eluded generations. They carry forward the spirit of curiosity, courage, and resilience that has defined the search for Yamashita's gold since the end of World War II. For anyone drawn to adventure, history, and the pursuit of the extraordinary, the legend of this hidden treasure serves as a compelling reminder that the world still holds mysteries waiting to be solved, that courage and patience are often rewarded, and that some of the greatest stories lie just beneath the surface, waiting for those bold enough to seek them. So as we close this chapter on the incredible journey of Yamashita's gold, we are reminded that the story is far from over. The treasure continues to call to those willing to brave the challenges, a living legend that inspires adventure, ignites curiosity, and preserves the memory of a remarkable period in history. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey into the past, for exploring the tales of courage, strategy, and human determination that surround one of the most legendary treasures ever hidden. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss any of our future adventures into history's greatest mysteries. From all of us here, good night, and may your dreams be filled with the wonder of discovery.